really appreciate everybody being here tonight. Wouldn't have been here without you all. So especially the former guest contributors that are here. So they've got a name tag on with a number, and obviously we'd be stuck at 99 if it wasn't for all of those folks individually. So super happy that we're here. We'll see how we do on this recording, but we're excited to do it in front of everybody. I did want to take a second to do some thank yous. First of all, the Four Hands, Kevin, and the Four Hands crew for having us out here tonight. It's a great space, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also want to thank our presenting sponsor for the podcast. They've been with us, I think, since about episode 20, maybe, episode 24, but Busey Bank. Busey has been my personal bank since 2007 and business bank. So they're great folks to work with. Obviously, they felt a little compelled to help us out, but they have stuck with it all the way through, and we wouldn't continue to do it without them. And then actually we have a new sponsor recently, the Normal brand. Yeah. So Jimmy Sansone was on episode 67, local company, really cool stuff, great story, and there's a promotion code that I'll provide in the show notes for you all to get 15% off of an article of clothing. So, but also really more than anything, there's a couple of thank yous that I want to do before we get started. Most importantly is this guy right here, JB Anderson. Producer, honestly, figuratively and literally, none of this would happen without JB. He really took the barrier of entry way down, and yeah, just hit the red button and do some editing, but makes everything sound great. He's been great. He's been a mentor, kind of talking through some different things, an idea guy, good friend of mine. Just really do appreciate you being on this journey with me. Donna Wolfersberger in the back there. Donna's been with me at the bakery for, almost 25 years maybe, but formally joined our team when we built the new factory in 2015, and she took on this project with me, and she's just awesome. What a rock star. She is retiring at the end of the year. We're losing her. But
good for you, run.
Yeah. My beautiful wife sitting here in the front, Melissa. Never met a microphone she didn't love, so we're going to keep her off the mic tonight. But episode 75, if you want her story, you ought to listen to that one. 74? Oh, sorry, 74. Okay, thank you. So, and as I mentioned, all of the contributors who are here tonight from previous episodes, really, this was all about a journey of curiosity for me. Continues to be that way. Super excited about the opportunity to just talk in front of people and learn stories of really amazing people. And so really appreciate all of that. And finally and quickly, my friends Mark and Joe, who have been critiquing all along the way, right in the back there. I get a text message after every episode with their feedback, their show notes, and I'm super appreciative of that as well. So couldn't keep doing this without you guys. But so really, we'll jump into it. What I wanted to do, we were excited about the opportunity to record an episode sort of kind of live and in person. We thought about getting together some heavyweights in the hospitality industry in St. Louis, most of whom were former guests who've been on the show before. Qui, I've been begging to get on the show, and I finally got him to do this. So he is not a former guest, but he is here this evening. But super excited. So we'll kind of start with I'm going to kind of let them introduce themselves a little bit and sort of just give a quick kind of a speed dating update about what they're working on, and then we'll jump into some stuff and sort of see where the conversation goes. But I love the fact that they all know each other pretty well and pretty intimately, so I don't think they're going to have any qualms about talking over each other and maybe even asking each other some questions. But actually, Qui, we'll start on the end. If you just want to give just a little bit of introduction and maybe kind of the current projects that you're working on or what you got coming in the pipeline.
Speaking of intimate, Kevin and I still share a bunk bed together. So. Sorry. I might have outgrown it a little, but Well, I am the bus boy at Mai Lee Nudo House. So we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year at Mai Lee. Well, I should be clapping for all of you because without the community, we would never have lasted this long. And so, that's something that, I'm proud of. My mother started it and, somehow I managed to not burn it to the ground. So thank you for that. And we started Noodle House, a fast casual pho and ramen shop. There's 2 locations. So that's, again, without the community, we'd be nowhere. So we're trying to continue that. It's been obviously, I guess you might hear tonight, it's been probably a rough year for a lot of small businesses, not just our business. So you'll probably hear that a lot tonight, and we're happy to answer any questions. But again, we're nothing without you all, and very grateful every day for the community and everybody that comes in and spends their money with us and supports us, and we try to give back as much as possible. We've got a few things going for next year. We're working on a few different. This will be the first. I haven't even told anyone yet, but since
we'd like to break the news here.
Yeah, well, we're going to break the news here today. But we are currently. I'm working with a couple of friends in California right now, and we're looking to bring a few anime concepts to St. Louis because it's hasn't. No one's really done that in the restaurant industry yet here in St. Louis. So I'm looking to transform Del Mar, being that might be the right location for that, into a few different concepts for the first 6 months of the year. So
that'd be great.
We'll keep everybody posted, I promise.
Well, that's the reason to have you back on the show. And we'll learn a little bit more about
we're still we're waiting. We're getting. It's funny because we've been waiting on approval from Japan. So I just recently got an email right now. I haven't even looked at it yet, but it shows from. So anyway, but we'll keep everybody posted. Thank you for having me, Josh.
Thrilled to have you here, Kevin.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Nashan. I have a couple restaurants, Sidney Street Cafe Peacemaker. Have a great collaboration with 4 Hands, and one in the airport and one in Kirkwood. Have some stuff out in Tulsa. And I was on the podcast. It was like a couple of years ago. Wonderful. Love it. And as Qui mentioned earlier, we're nothing without our incredible community. And we're spending our 24th year this year at Sidney Street, so it's really, really cool. And I think, the pipeline for us is, my 53-year-old body. I want to start cleaning my room, as we were talking about, and I want to start editing. So I think I'm going to spend the next 10 years of just maybe downsizing and figuring my life out and all that. It takes a long time to figure your life out.
So speaking of body, though, you have a 100-mile ultramarathon coming up in 2 weeks, right?
I do. Yeah. But that has zero correlation to here. But thank you, Josh, for embarrassing me now. No, but I'm really excited about just concentrating on our collaboration, concentrating on the stuff I have. It's kind of I think a lot of people really want to wonder what's next, and I really want to take it back and wonder how can we make what we have better? And that's my thoughts. All right.
Thank you, Kevin.
My name is Mitch Meyers. I come from the marketing world. I started out at Anheuser-Busch. I rolled out the Bud Light brand in 1982, so that tells you my vintage. So I spent about 8 years there, and then joined a couple of guys and started an advertising and marketing agency called the Zipitoni Company, and we had a really fun 15-year run there. And we sold the company to Interpublic Group, and I thought I was retiring at 45 and I was going to become Mother of the Year. My kids ended up going to college in Boulder, Colorado, and the first year they were there is when Colorado opened up cannabis. And I was so fascinated to see a brand new industry just springing up in front of my eyes, and I would just knock on doors and invite myself in. Hi, I'm a housewife from the Midwest. What are you guys doing here? How does this work? And I found such an amazing community of people coming from corporate America who everybody hides every little secret, they can from each other. These people were so kind and just poured out everything they knew, showed me everything, gave me tours. And so I came back. I live in Illinois, and there was a law that was coming available as a medical cannabis, and I applied for a dispensary license and got it. And I was not a cannabis user as a kid, but I saw the medical component of it, and it really blew me away. So I got the dispensary up and going, and then Missouri offered a license to grow CBD and treat epilepsy patients, and I applied for that and got it. And so they got me into the cultivation aspect and the making oils and treating patients. And it was really, to this day, I still treat a lot of these patients, and it's really a gift. So then we started working with other people in the state of Missouri to bring forward a medical bill in the state of Missouri, which we successfully did in 2018, and I'm sure all of you voted for it. Thank you. I had to go out and find investors and partners, and we really had a failure of imagination. We thought we might win one of each license. That was our hope. But we applied for the max that you could own, which is 10, and we got them all. So it's like the dog that caught the car, right? It was like we were clapping and yelling and hugging, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, where are we going to get the money to do this? And it was the beginning of COVID. Market's upside down. People in Missouri are very conservative. They like bricks and mortar. Cannabis, what? And so it was a struggle to get those licenses open. But fast forward to today, we voted in recreational. We now have 18 licenses. We have 12 stores, 3 cultivation, and 2 manufacturing. And it's really a fun business. It's not easy because all 3 of those verticals are very different in terms of manpower, but I'm really proud of our team. Building culture is something that I really like to do. I saw that brought a higher multiple when we sold our advertising agency, and that's what we're doing in the cannabis space. So I know there's some good customers here, and I appreciate you all. Suede is our dispensary name, so hope to see you there.
You sure you don't want to follow that? I'm Ben Hillman, and I'm just trying to be like these guys when I grow up. It is true. 40 years is pretty good. I lead 2 restaurants locally, Taco Buddha and High Pointe. Both are not restaurants I founded, but was fortunate enough to partner with some amazing entrepreneurs. 2 of the most creative people I know. Kurt Eller founded Taco Buddha, and Mike Johnson founded High Pointe Drive-In. And my whole mission is to partner with incredible entrepreneurs and help bring their concepts to scale and to reach their full potential. So it's been a really fun journey for me. We bought High Pointe at the end of 2020 and Taco Buddha last year. And both Mike and Kurt are partners in their concepts and involved in the business. And
Do you have any news you want to break tonight about it?
No, I almost broke the news of Taco Buddha.
I know, that's why I thought we would take another crack at it.
No, not yet. Maybe next one. We are building a new Taco Buddha in Botanical Heights, but I guess that's old news now. So yeah, it's been a really fun journey, and I'm a big fan of Josh, and we use his products in all our restaurants, and just excited to be here.
And Ben's a new father, so 5 weeks.
Now you're making me look bad for being here on a Thursday night, but
Well, it's 5 weeks. It's
Yeah.
more than a month, so it's okay.
Hey everybody, my name is Kevin Lemp. I'm with Hands Brewing Company. I really kind of started this journey right out of college. Right out of college, I started working for Gallo Winery. They are essentially the equivalent of Anheuser-Busch in the wine world. Kind of moved up the ranks with Gallo, worked for them for about a decade, sales rep, division manager, went over to Illinois, managed the state of Illinois. And I loved the category, but I joke that flannel is just way more my wardrobe than suit and tie. And so we made the decision to just, learn everything that we can, and do your own thing. I feel like I always had that spirit to do my own thing. And at that time, craft beer was really booming. And I fell in love with it. And not just because of the product, but the narrative. I always felt like it was a little bit more whimsical. It was very philanthropic. It was very community-minded. And that, it hooked me. And so now Four Hands, we're 14 years old. I play in the beverage space. I'm going to stay in my lane. But we're going to keep being innovative and creative. I think that, over those 14 years, we've built a bit of a portfolio of brands. And we noticed that craft beer was getting pretty saturated. When we opened up, there were 1,400 breweries across the country. Fast forward today, there's 10,000. And so about 5-6 years ago, we got into distilled spirits. We're now in the NA space. And for us, it's really just like keep the blinders off, look at opportunities, and how can we continue to build our brand.
Yeah, and I think that's been the interesting part about watching your journey is it's an industry that's struggling right now if you look at craft beer by itself. But I think that diversification, watching you has been super inspiring because you've just been ahead of the curve on all those things as you've attacked it. So I'm excited. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about leadership. I do want to take a second to say that there is a QR code up there. And if anybody has any questions, you can scan the QR code and submit a question because I do want this to be interactive. We get an opportunity to do this in front of a lot of people. So don't hesitate to throw a question at the group. We can save them till the end, or if one's relevant, we'll jump in. JB's monitoring the questions. So technology is cool stuff. So take a look at that. But kind of thinking about leadership, Qui, and I'm going to go back to you because you were talking about taking over for your mom and this 40-year-old concept restaurant that you now are leading. When you think about leadership, what have been the things that she did that are just sort of non-negotiable that we're going to always keep doing, and what are the things that you've sort of evolved and tried to change as you bring Mai Lee and Nudo into the 21st century?
I think leadership involves diversifying all the bad stuff with all the good stuff. And, I think a lot of it is trying to figure out and create an environment where, obviously in any business, it's already high pressure. So we have a policy at our restaurants that there's no yelling. So, that's a very different guard than the old guard. And so, for us, they always say if somebody comes in, we have a new hire or something, and thank goodness we don't have any new hires. Our staff's been with us, very grateful for that. But, I've heard some of my staff say, hey, boss doesn't yell, so you don't get to yell. So, I think I just try to create an environment where people can thrive and, trying to learn, from all my friends here. The beautiful thing is I'm always on a thread, a text thread with a bunch of my friends, and if you calculate it all out, it's over 200 years in the service industry. And so, without me even asking, and if they say that they had a bad day or they had this certain experience, I learn from that. So, part of leadership is never, like I said, keeping the blinds open and trying to absorb as much information.
Was that how she led also, or is that a change to the way it would have been 40 years ago?
It's been a change because obviously in any business, it's very dynamic. And, you watch the way like my mother runs her business, my father runs the business, and there's a lot of great things you take from it, but then there's also a lot of things that, hey, maybe we kind of soften up a little bit on. And, again, it's the educational process, right? Because it's, reading a book like Setting the Table, reading a book from Danny Meyer who says his philosophy is the dishwasher is just as important as the executive chef. And it's true. And so I go back sometimes and I look at my dishwasher and I go, why haven't I been washing the pots that way? There's always something better. There's always a better way to do things. And so, if you stop learning, then you can't grow. And I know that sounds very cliche, but
no, absolutely.
I find it for the last 40 years to be very true.
Kevin Nashan. So when you think about leadership, because you've been on this journey now where obviously you were the chef owner of Sidney Street for I don't know how many years before, 10 or 12 years before Peacemaker opened, right? So it was one shop, one restaurant, one kitchen, and it was your deal. And then all of a sudden you open location 2 and 3 and 4, and you're in Tulsa and you're at the airport. How has your leadership evolved over that period of time? What's been the biggest challenge for you as you now have to pop in and out of places and have an impact on people versus spending the day, behind the stove?
Yeah, good question. I think at the end of the day, it's pretty pragmatic. I like to just say that actions speak louder than words. And so if I'm there to support the team, and whether it be washing dishes or helping seat somebody or delivering food or helping prep or whatever that case is that you're always there. There's never, and in every job, you're never, beneath it. It's kind of like, that's the one mantra, I think, with all the restaurants is like, yes, we all have this like position, but like, it's not your position. If there's, if I'm in Kirkwood and I see, a table that needs to be bussed or something, I'm going to help out. I'm not going to walk over a piece of garbage and I'm going to pick it up. So it's kind of that kind of thing. And, it's contagious. I mean, if you go in there and you're kind of like a jerk and you yell like Qui does, it's really detrimental. But no, it's all, and it really is. It's
but
kind
it's
of like
hard.
kids.
It's hard with that finite amount of time, right? Because you're only at Tulsa, I don't know, once a month. You're in there for a couple of days, and so
but I'm talking to everybody. Like daily. Gratefully and ungratefully we have these phones, and I am literally talking to everybody on the team, for better or worse. So I think that as long as you're constant gentle pressure, and I'm just giving a little tap, and it's like, what can I do for you? I'm not there right now, but like, how can I help? And you're always troubleshooting. That's kind of like just being there, being present.
This is a nice Danny Mark.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was being present.
Oh.
Mitch, what about you? I mean, you've got this wealth of knowledge coming out of multiple industries and advertising and different backgrounds. And then, so what does your leadership become, and where do you see yourself adding the most value to your organization now?
So I said before, culture is really important to me and the people I surround myself with. And we've always had one rule, and that is no assholes. I won't work with them. I won't work for them. And we won't employ them. And so we now have 425 employees. I swore after Zipatoni I'd never have another employee, and now we're about 425 and growing. But what we've done is hired the best people we can find. And sometimes we think we found them, and 6 months later we find out they're the asshole and they got to go. And I've learned that you have to fire fast. And that's hard to do. Sometimes you feel like, oh, let's give them a try, let's do this, let's do that, and it's cancer in your organization. So we have a very flat organization. Every Tuesday we have an operations meeting from the CEO down to every director and manager level. They can give us bad news all the time. We want it, as it's happening. They know they're not going to get in trouble. And what that does is it makes them all realize they count on each other. We may be the top management, but we don't know anything. They're the ones that know how to grow those plants or extract or do whatever. So just doing that on a weekly basis and having them know that they rely on each other. Bad news comes up quickly, good news we celebrate. But, just keeping that organization really flat makes it work.
So you come from an advertising background, and we had a question from the audience as to where the name Suede came from.
So, it's hard. As I started looking at trademarks and trying to figure out what we could call it, we started out as medical, but I knew that we would probably move to an adult use recreational, and I didn't want to have to repackage and re-sign and do all of that. So I worked with some old pals from Zipatoni, and we did a whole study and looked at different names, and Suede is made up. I felt like if we could give it a personality, to me it sounded like, sway, like the plant and the human body sway together. Suede is kind of a groovy fabric. It's just fun to say. It's one word. And so when I presented it to my partners, they're looking at it like, it's just type. And they're like, Swade? I don't like it. And I go, okay, pretend that, you're sitting around the conference room table and Google is what you're going to call your company. What do you think people thought of that? We'll make it mean something. So they went along with it. And, I think it's just really hard to have something that you can own that somebody else doesn't have in the country.
Sure.
And so we were able to trademark it and, move on.
So Ben, you mentioned that you didn't start either of the two concepts that you're leading now. How has that leadership challenge been for you as you come into an organization, both of which had culture and had very dynamic leaders who obviously were super popular within their organizations? If I think about Mike, I mean, that's not an easy guy to follow into a room, obviously, and obviously Kurt had a very successful business. What's been the biggest challenge for you, and how have you overcome that as you think about finding your own voice inside of both of those organizations?
Yeah, that's a great question that I was not prepared for, but
it wasn't on the pre-list.
No, it's a really good question.
That.
I was thinking as you were talking. I think what's really important for us is Mike and Kurt are still so ingrained in the culture. And I think that's like critical to the success. It's the reason why I didn't want to start my own restaurant. I wanted to buy a restaurant because I am not Mike. I am not Kurt. I can't do what they do. And like their culture, High Point, it is Mike. The irreverence, the creativity, same thing on the Taco Buddha side. And so it's about embracing that and then creating more discipline around it. And what I mean by that is like actually, what does that culture actually mean, and defining it and building a business around that versus changing it.
Yeah. So how do you find your own voice within that then? Like, what does that look like?
Through all the process. Like my voice is on the people side and actually scaling through that. And I think that you go back and it starts with like the reason I partnered with them is because we're very aligned as people, as business owners, as partners. And so part of the way they led already was who I am as well. So it's not like it was square peg, round hole.
Sure.
But I think it's just about carrying through what they already had going, if that makes sense.
So Kevin, I'm going to ask you a leadership question, but I'm going to start with the name question too, because that also came. So where did Four Hands come from?
So the Four Hands represents my family. So me, my wife Megan, who's sitting right back there, and then our oldest son Rowan, youngest son Fisher, and then everybody says, well, that's 8 hands. Say no, 1 hand and go team.
So when obviously one of the things that you guys do a lot of is collaborations. And so sort of in the same way that I asked the question to Ben, I mean, you've got to find a voice for Four Hands while you're partnering and creating these collaborations. And how do you do that? And how important are they to your brand, and sort of where has that momentum kind of come from?
I mean, I think that we almost built the brand on collaboration. We were young coming in, and we wanted to I think, help find the voice by working with people that we felt were smarter than us, that were better than us, that we could learn something from. And I remember one of those collaborations was with Nashan called Foundation, where we worked with 5 restaurateurs in St. Louis around the James Beard Award. And I remember sitting at Peacemaker and talking to Kevin, and he kept on harping on foundation, foundation, foundation. I was like, I fucking love that. And that was the name. And I've honestly carried that conversation with me for the last 14 years. We've had opportunities to do a whole bunch of things. And we've said no way, way more than we've said yes, because I didn't feel like our foundation was solid enough. And as soon as we felt like that foundation was solid enough, we started saying yes. A handful of those things all happened maybe a little too close together, but that wasn't our fault. But collaboration's super important. Right? I mean, we want to work with people that inspire us inside our category and outside of our category. And we have a ton of fun with that. I don't look at an ROI on a collaboration, right? From like a monetary standpoint. I think I've received a ton of ROI on collaboration just by working with really innovative, passionate, like-minded people. I've collaborated with every single one of these people up here. with either the Nudo Can cocktail or brick and mortar with Kevin, the Peacemaker Wit. Mitch, we do a ton of events together. And then Ben and I with different beers and brick and mortars as well. So collaboration for us is pretty
So
crucial.
how much of those are you generating those, or are you pushing those out, or are you being approached, or does it end up being a combination as you become obviously open to the idea?
It goes both ways, but I would say we engage the majority of our collaborations. Yeah, I mean, I'd say the biggest from just a brand perspective from a collaboration, we're on year 3. We have one more year with Voltron, and that's through NBC Universal, which is like a real big beast. But we learned a ton through that.
Right. Well, Qui's going to take the mantle on the.
They're going to be gone in a minute. You won't have to deal with NBC anymore. It's going to be strictly Voltron.
Yeah. But that was such a fun collaboration. When we got that opportunity, like 8-year-old Kevin freaked out. You know, like I was that 8-year-old, that 9-year-old that woke up on the weekends, went to the first floor, put on Voltron with the blank VHS, watched it, and I would rewatch it the next day. So, that's one of those collaborations that going into this, you never think's going to happen.
Sure. So kind of throwing out a question to the group, because another one that came from the audience was this idea of bias for action, and the fact that you guys all as decision makers and entrepreneurs and folks that have built really cool businesses certainly don't wait and hesitate. But how do you take that bias for action, or when somebody says that to you, what does that make you? What does that make you think about? Go ahead, Ben. You hit the buzzer first.
No, Qui made a good point earlier about the text thread he's in. I mean, the way I don't have bias is surrounding myself with really smart people that think differently than I do, and both in partnership, but also mentorship. I have the benefit of working with my family, with my brother and my dad, and we talk a lot through every challenge we have in the business. And Kevin and I talk daily, and he's someone I talk about all my issues in my business. And I think having people like that in my personal life, but also in business, helps me have unbiased reactions.
You know what? As old as I am, I wish I had less bias for action. But I feel like I'm this lifelong learner, and I just get interested in something and I go down a rabbit hole and start researching, and that's what happened with cannabis. And then all of a sudden I'm covered up with 425 employees, and it's like, how does that happen? But I do think if you have an interest in something, and you continue to research and look into it, it's hard not to get involved.
Qui?
Well, I'll give you an example. And so, there's actually 2 great examples. I think back in 2018, I was fortunate enough to get invited by Kevin to cook a dinner at Danielle, right? And, it was an alumni dinner with Kevin. And so after the dinner, we all sat down. Chef Danielle took us out to eat. And this was pre-COVID, so he was possibly thinking about getting into a fast casual concept. And so I'm sitting here, Kevin's sitting here, David Choi from Soul Taco and Mike Emerson from Pappy's Barbecue. So we're sitting here, and you have someone like Danielle Ballou that's like, hey, can you guys explain this fast casual concept? And, in my brain, I'm like, this is a god of food. This is a god of industry. We should be absorbed. But he couldn't wrap his brain around, well, I'm sure he probably does understand it, but he wanted to get a feel. And he was like, you all are very successful in what you do. And we're like, not like you. We don't have 300 restaurants worldwide. But then also, another example is, Danny Meyer was in St. Louis speaking at Wash U. And Danny's such a great individual because he always wants to keep up with what's going on in St. Louis. And so, David was at the dinner. We invited Danny. He was there. And so Danny was like, I feel terrible because I've never eaten at Soul Taco. So this is the type of person, Danny Meyer. So anyway, he calls, Qui, what are you doing? I'm right down the street. I just got done. Meet me for lunch at Soul Taco. I said, okay, great. So we're sitting there, And Danny had an issue. He had an issue. His daughter has an ice cream shop, a great ice cream shop in New York, by the way. But he sits down with David and I, and he goes, "Hey, my daughter has this really tough customer. And how would you deal with this situation?" And this man wrote the book on, hospitality. So there is never a reason. These are gods of industry. And who am I? There's never a reason to be arrogant, never a reason to look down on someone, because Danny knows how to deal with that customer, but he's texting his daughter. He even said, "Hey, guys, slow down. That's really good. I want to finish texting my daughter here." And so how can we be biased and how can we be closed-minded when these gods of industry are constantly learning?
Sure.
And so I think that's the death of anybody if you feel you're the best of anything, because none of us are.
Right.
Kevin might be, but not me.
I think just to sum everybody up, for the exception of Lemp hasn't spoken, but I think at the end of the day, you surround yourself with people that will always humble you. You never drink your own Kool-Aid, and you always want to I love what you said. You're always a lifelong learner. I mean,
And I think
What more to say?
And you've been a big part of that collaboration, community building in St. Louis. I think, I was here a little bit before you with the bakery, and it was different. I think there were certainly Tom Sainert and Bill Cardwell were incredibly charitable and doing a lot of things, and Mr. Bomarito at Tony's. There were tremendous people in the industry, but it didn't feel like there were chefs' events and dinners and those kind of things happening in a collaborative nature. And I think between you and Gerard and this generation that has sort of kind of now grown up in the last 20 years has really changed St. Louis and changed the industry for the better in that regard. And so thank you for that, first of all. But did that just come from that natural curiosity and just wanting to be able to, was that a conscious decision to move in that direction? Or
I don't think so. It was natural. It's like Kevin was saying, he just wanted to surround himself and collaborate with people that he inspired him and stuff. And St. Louis is super unique. I think that we have such an amazing hospitality industry, and whether it be beverage or food, and everyone pretty much gets along, for the exception of Qui and I. But
I'm still paying him for those collaborations, by the way.
yeah, no, but those are so important. It's kind of you're okay, well, we don't know anything about charcuterie, so let's bring this gentleman from CIA and bring Sully from Blackberry Farms. And then it's okay, well, let's learn about this. It's I feel like it was all organic and common sense.
So Kevin, as you think about St. Louis, and now that you have invested in, opened at the airport, can you talk about how the airport, as you try to show off your town and talk about this community here, what is the airport concept? And Kevin, you also can jump into this, but how has that played out for you, and how's that experience been as you now become kind of a gateway into and out of St. Louis?
It's a really unique opportunity for us, and really from just a brand building standpoint, it's a unique structure also. It's not our teammates, right? It's a partnership that we have. But I would say from a brand activation opportunity for being able to introduce our brands to thousands and thousands and thousands of people every day, I don't know a better location. And I feel like we got really lucky to work with the individual that we are at the airport because he believes in our passion, he believes in our vision, and he really allowed us to kind of go to market in a route that we only felt comfortable with. I think that could have been an opportunity that maybe you say no to. Because you got to protect the integrity of your brand. But working with Milan on our end, it's been really super pleasant. He's been great to work with.
You got anything to add on the airport experience, Kevin?
Here.
Another one from the group out here, so thank you for the questions. How do you guys decide on what's next and when to dedicate resources and energy behind something new versus taking care of business, established business, I guess?
For us, it's how much mental energy do you have, right? It's how much mental energy do you have at the time and what opportunities are presenting themselves. I had no mental energy for about 2.5 years, and that was with opening up Chesterfield, opening up Kirkwood, opening up the airport. That's really all I could focus on. But we're super data driven. And, we're looking at Nielsen IRI every single month. Most recently, when I'm talking to the leadership team, it's think big and take the blinders off. We started as a small batch craft brewery. I think that will probably always make up the lion's share of our total revenue, but I don't want to look at business like that anymore. I want to look at opportunities and see how we can get in that line of business.
So I should ask you if you've got something to announce tonight then. What's next for you? You got something going?
Well, if we didn't look at our business that way, it would look a lot different. The distillery started out and saying, hey, we feel like gin can kind of play well with small batch beer, right? You need juniper, and then the rest of it, you could have like this beautiful canvas you can play with. So now as we're looking at what's next for us, we're small batch beer, we've got distilled spirits, we've got non-alcoholic beer within our portfolio, and in a couple of weeks, we're gonna launch THC beverage, which is super exciting for us, That's a very disruptive category. And it has caused like some real issues for the craft beer category. I'll also look at that and say, if craft beer is down 5%, we all want to be in a category that's up, but get bullish. Get bullish, put your head down and find opportunities and be one that's not down 5. I think because of our leadership team and the way that we go to business and look at business, we've been able to be better than the category. And as we're looking at, the back half of this year, all my mental energy has really gone to that THC beverage.
Sure.
And just really kind of dissecting that. I've been studying it for a long, long time. Mitch and I have had a ton of conversations over the years. And I've got passion with that category. We actually had an opportunity to be in the cannabis world, and that partnership just didn't look right. And so we bowed out. But I think now is the right time for us at Four Hands to jump in. I think that we're doing it thoughtfully and with care, and we're excited about that.
So Ben, I guess the same question to you then. You obviously you had High Point, you just got into Taco Buddha. Forget about what's next or making any kind of announcements. But how did you decide when it was time to then do another one, as opposed to continuing to expand with High Point? How do you know when your team has the capacity for that, or you have the personal capacity for that?
Yeah, I always go back to my first boss, who's still a mentor. He's on our board, and he always used to preach, we can't grow our business faster than we grow our people. And so I focus on building our team, and when I feel like we're getting comfortable, then I've always got new stuff for us to do and new concepts to work with. I'm very impatient and always want to chase the next thing, and so I have to remember that for myself most of the time. And luckily I have a team that holds me accountable on that too and tells me to slow down. But for me, it's all about focusing on building the team to be able to take on new challenges.
So Mitch, kind of transitioning to CBD and cannabis, and what's the question that you wish folks in hospitality would be asking about that?
When are you going to cook with my product? Kevin Nashan made the most delicious focaccia 2 years ago. We did a Cooking with Cannabis video series. Ben Paremba was involved. We do something called Best Buds, which we work with chefs. I think next Tuesday we're at Lazy Tiger with Tim Wiggins. But basically we provide cannabis oil for free to the restaurant. They open up on a night that they're closed. They do an infused meal and mocktails, and they charge the customer and keep all the money. And the chefs have loved this. It's really creative. It kind of is the future. Beverages are now out of the barn, and that is exposing cannabis to a much broader audience. When you can walk into Total Wine and see a whole, end cap of it, it's just normalizing the product. And while I don't get that business, I'm here for it because it is, more people are experiencing cannabis in a positive way. And to your point about data, I read today that as of this year, THC beverages are $22 billion. They're projecting them to be $138 billion over the next several years. And that's because, big players are getting involved and they're filling the distribution pipeline. Circle K announced today they're going to put them in 3,000 stores. So, it's happening. It is here to stay. I don't think the government can, circle back on us and take it away from us because people have spoken, they want it. And I think that there's a lot of creativity that can come with the product. And we're always looking at ways to introduce other things that people consume, whether it's adaptogens or we just created a powder packet that has electrolytes in it and CBD, CBG. So every morning I just put that in a glass of water and take 4 less supplements than I usually do. But just kind of looking at consumer behavior, what are they taking, what are they doing? Millennials and Gen Z are all looking to eat better, to drink better, and be healthier. So I think.
So for the restaurant guys, are you feeling that demand or hearing that demand for cannabis or CBD menu items?
I mean, this gives a new meaning to herbs in your pho. I might have to jump on this train. You know what I mean? Hurry up and jump on it.
No, Kevin?
I mean, I don't know.
It's one thing to do an event, to do a collaboration.
Right, to do an event, yeah.
But
I think there's just so much caution, in terms of like, there's some people that don't want it anywhere near their food or that kind of thing. And so it's like, it's almost like it takes gluten allergy to a whole different level, know? And then, but I don't know. I think the more important part is that it is evolving, and I think that there's opportunity to do dinners, and I've done collaborations, and we've done. I love cooking with it. I think it's really interesting. There's some really cool nuances with baking. It's incredible, and the science behind it, which I love. I love numbers too, but I think it's going to be an asset more than a problem.
So another question from the crowd here. What advice would you have to those who've been embedded in corporate culture and are ready and hesitant, but they're ready to jump? So entrepreneurial.
Stay.
So here's my advice. I'm going to tell you a story, and I'll give you this advice. So when we first opened Nudo back in 2017, we had a lot of people from out of town. Then I had this one real estate guy from Miami, Florida. And he goes, he brought his friend who wanted to get in the restaurant business. And he goes, my friend, loves this Nudo concept. You should open this in Miami. And he asked how much it costs, right? And then he goes, well, I got about $500,000. I said, well, I'm going to save you about $450. And he goes, how? I said, what do you do? And he goes, I've been in construction. I have a contracting business. I said, okay. I said, you're going to pay me $50,000 to consult on this deal. I'm going to tell you not to do it. And then you're going to go back, live your life happily ever after, and have $450,000 in your pocket. So you have to be 150% crazy to do this business. If you're 110% crazy, it's
that's
never gonna
entrepreneurial
work.
And to then do it in the restaurant business,
correct,
right? The,
so
the combination of the two.
I mean, you have to have. I think a lot of us up here you have to have a spouse that's pretty independent, because when I moved Mai Lee's to the new location in 2010, and then 7 years later. You're like, oh, we just got out of debt. Oh, wow, I'm going to open this new restaurant. Oh, and then right before COVID, we're going to open another restaurant. So, a lot could have gone wrong. And, you have to, I think there has to be an understanding. Luckily, I have a spouse that's amazing. Like, she's way smarter than me, and she's very independent. And so that's something that lends itself to my success. And I'm going to hopefully continue it if I don't, burn this whole thing down here. So, but yeah, I mean, my thing is to not do it. But if you do want to do it, then there's a lot of good advice. And the main advice is you have to enthrall yourself into it. You have all of it.
Right. Kevin
Everything
Lemp,
you
because
have.
you came out of Gallo and corporate wine and the...
I think that I was lucky that I just stayed on the same path. I was on the same track, right? So, I mean, from my standpoint, I feel like I worked for one of the best suppliers in the world, and I spent a decade there. So I really felt like I learned everything that I needed over those 10 years, and then just brought that into what Four Hands is. And so for me, I feel like it was a massive benefit, but it doesn't turn off. It's on all day long. But I looking back, I feel unbelievably grateful for my tenure at Gallo. And without it, I think I maybe would have still done it, but I would not have nearly been as successful.
Can I say something? I appreciate my AB background too. It was great training and great learning, but big companies cannot pivot quickly. They just don't. There's too many layers. There's too much politics. And I feel like the business environment today, whatever you're doing, if you don't have that ability and a gut sense to say, let's go there, let's try this, let's get these people on the team, big companies just can't do it. And so if you're stressed by that, I would suggest you get out, because there are more small to medium-sized companies you can get into and be part of that.
So my friends from the St. Louis area food bank are here. We're a huge partner with the food bank, and we're really excited about what we've been able to do to help them. But there was a question about partnering with nonprofits. I know that I'm sitting in front of some of the most charitable, generous people in all of St. Louis. So tell me about what that does for you and what you're looking for as you find those partnerships and those opportunities for you guys to do things to give back. I'll start with you, Kevin.
I mean, I think it's a massive pillar of who we are at Four Hands. Citywide is our philanthropic brand. It's our philanthropic arm. We've given over $400,000 to nonprofits through the sales of Citywide. And it means so much to us. I mean, it is without question the most inspired project that we've ever done and will ever do. We're not really a big check brand. I think that we've kind of done it quietly for a long time, but it's just so rewarding, and it's more than just the money. I mean, there's been so many times where we've worked with a nonprofit that needed other assets, so we would do a book drive, or we would actually physically build the bookshelves to then put the books from the book drive on. And, for us, we love St. Louis. This is our home. And we want to try and make it the best version of St. Louis that it can be. And I think that with us teaming up with other nonprofits, and I think now really picking the right nonprofit so that it's not just the monetary donation, but also can we use our platform to shed a little bit more light on all the good that they're doing, and can there be more that comes from that? That's really important to us. We love it.
Yeah, I find that to be one of the best parts about aging as a business is that you can start to have enough brand credibility that your association with an organization can help the organization as much as you get to help them, and just how that feels. But Ben, you want to talk about it? Because you guys are obviously doing a ton.
Yeah, I think for us, it's also for the team. And we talk a lot about how we're more than just selling cheeseburgers and tacos. We're part of a community. And I think it's important for us to engage our team in that we can actually make a difference more than bottom line profit. And one thing we encourage with our team too is let's get involved in things that they care about too. We did a collaboration over the summer with the APA, and it was all from my team. They raised their hand, said, "Hey, we really want to support this organization, so let's go all in on this." And I didn't even think twice about it. And so that's really fun for me to see if our team getting engaged and want to be part of the community as well.
Sure. Mitch?
So our product line is obviously a little more complicated. We don't get asked to donate a lot of product, which is unfortunate. But we do have medical, like the Epilepsy Foundation. We've been involved with them. But we require our staff to volunteer every quarter. So they pick whatever they want that they're interested in. And we believe that having our people interacting with people from nonprofits and doing good things in the community, again, normalizes cannabis. You know, you get to know our people. They're great humans, they're parents, and, you know, they're just not crazy stoners. And we believe that, you know, that just kind of brings the whole community together. And we always find people have questions. You know, we have an outbound, we hired a gerontologist, a very young woman that has a master's in gerontology. And we now go around, we just had a thing with Oasis the other day.
Maybe nobody else is going to ask, but I'm going to ask. What is a gerontologist?
A gerontologist is somebody who studies old people.
Okay.
Old people. And, you know, cannabis is very good for health and wellness and pain and sleep and things like that. And we're all just tired of the after effects of pharmaceuticals, right? We don't like those side effects anymore. And now that cannabis is here and available, we're doing outbound education to explain to people if you have this issue, like Crohn's and IBS and, you know, people that are going through cancer treatment. We now have great manufactured products to address those things. People just don't know this. So we have to create the educational link to do that. So I think it's just a lot about getting our staff out and just getting into the community.
Kevin?
Well, I mean, it's no surprise. Restaurants and our industry is notoriously always been philanthropic, you know, whatever event, you know, whether it be, No Kid Hungry, Chef Cycle, I mean, so many local events. But I think the more important part is that you really want to do stuff that is impactful for the team, for your thoughts, you know. I mean, cancer is a big deal in our family, so we're always behind it. And just, you know, stuff that you could really get behind. You know, I think that the hard part is to really cheerlead and really raise money for stuff that really doesn't hit home or you're not part of. And I think that like, you know, stay in your lane, figure out what gets your juices going, and then go full in. Citywide's been like an incredible, obviously, you know, token for the city and stuff. So it's cool. There's, I think that's the biggest key.
Yeah, I think we spent years and years giving out, you know, $25 gift cards to people, and you didn't know anything about it, and it didn't feel good. I mean, it was nice to help, but being able to put your energy very concentrated into a handful of really cool things that people are doing amazing work is that's what brings us joy and
100%.
passion. Qui, what about?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone up here is right. I mean, I wish we had more time, or I could clone myself, because we would, you know, participate more. But I mean, the end of the day, the word is community, right? The community supports us. How do we give back? And it's not so much with the money, but it's the time and helping create the environment where a lot of money can be raised. So, you know, like we also like, you know, as an not just an immigrant, but as a refugee of war, you know, coming over here, a lot of people helped. And so it's something that, you know, we like to do and give back, whether it's, you know, we choose, we have a women's shelter we give to every year that, you know, the nice thing is they actually take the children in of, you know, in abusive relationships, and they're very proud. So we do stuff like that. And, you know, I'm proud to work with the food bank. You know, I kind of shame that I haven't, but now that my wife is there helping out, it's a great cause. And now with, you know, everyone cutting benefits right now, you know, there's a huge food insecurity. So the more I learned about it the last couple of years, I'm like, oh my God, you know, it's like, it breaks your heart. So cancer research, everything, it's just our way to give back to the community. And like Kevin's right, I mean, you know, the restaurant industry, I mean, at a drop of a dime, if we don't have the money, we'll give you the food, right? We'll help. It's even if we don't have it, right, we try to figure it out some way.
Well, on behalf of the community, I want to thank all you guys, because of you. And really, I mean, honestly, that's a great way to wrap this up because I think that's the stuff that's most important to all of us, and I think that's a great way to end this. So, more than anything, I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight for episode 100. Thank you to everybody that came out tonight to join us. We'll all be around for a bit, and we'll do it again for number 250. Thanks, guys.